This is 40K Today, voted the #1 Warhammer 40K 15-minute magazine-style international podcast on all of Cadia Prime. You know, before the fall.
Welcome to 40K Today. This is your daily 15-minute news, views, and interviews from all around the world of Warhammer 40K. My name is Paul Murphy, your host, and on the program today we're going to be looking at apps, strats, and the model of the day. Let's get to it. Please head over to Facebook and participate in our poll of the week. What is the most iconic tank in Warhammer 40,000? Is it the Leman Russ? Is it the Land Raider? I've got my favorite, but we really want your opinion. Let's get right into the meat of our featured segments. Served up first for you is Nils from the Rightful Ruler. Technology is grand, and these guys are giving us different ways to use it.
Hello, Nils. Welcome to the show. Let's talk about Rightful Ruler. Why don't you tell everybody at home, who's listening to this, what it is and why it's sort of an advancement in wargaming that we haven't seen before.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me. So Rightful Ruler is this app we've been working on since this summer that tries to bring augmented reality to tabletop gaming. So we started off by making a simple measurement app with a simple idea that some measurements are pretty much impossible to get right with a measuring tape. So any situation where terrain is involved, where you want to charge through terrain or around something, and you're bending your measuring tape, and you're doing what we call the hover hands, and everything has to be measured 2, 3, 4 times, and the TO gets involved. So we had this idea of making a measurement app that would factor in the size of your base. So, for example, you have an HQ on a 40 millimeter base. You place a 40 millimeter marker on a virtual table. And then you can make a measurement in every direction at once. So we call these radial measurements. So basically, it's great for checking who's in range of your 6-inch aura, what targets are available with your 24-inch spell, things like this. And since we released the first version, we have added a bunch of new functionality. So now it's multiplayer enabled. So you can have 2 or more people see the same table. And we've added.
That's really cool. So then, I'm sorry to interrupt, but in a multiplayer AR experience, you both are seeing the same measurements. So there's no like, well, here, come look at my phone. They just look at it.
Yeah, you see the same
theirs.
thing. Absolutely. Yeah, you see the same thing.
So that's really cool. All right, continue. Apologies.
So the reason we had to add multiplayer, obviously, is people want to be able to see what the other person is doing. Fully understand that. There's a lot of those guys out there that could use an opportunity to cheat if they are making measurements that are not visible to the other player. So we added multiplayer support for our Patreon backers earlier this year. And since this weekend, it's available for everybody. So we just updated the App Store and Google Play version to version 0.8.7. So if you haven't downloaded that version yet, you should. And that version supports multiplayer. That also means that you can have a fixed camera, or put a phone on a tripod over the table or whatever, and have that capture everything that's going on. So we hope that it will make a dent in how people stream content and how people make battle reports. We have a desktop version of the app that's tentatively called Rightful Ruler Studio that will be coming out within a month or so. That is geared towards TOs and streamers and battle report makers to be able to capture the battlefield from several different camera angles and, as a moderator, leave annotations and things that are not visible to the players themselves, but at the same time be able to see what the players are doing.
Oh my gosh. So it's like a telestrator on steroids. So you'd be able to put up somebody's charge range, for example, and be like, well, here's all his targets that are available to him.
Yeah.
And wow.
And from any camera angle, which is what we hope will make the games a little bit more exciting. Because we've seen people do things like this with a top-down camera before. But now you can do it with a roaming camera. You can zoom right in on the action and see that charge up close, which we think is pretty cool.
I think it's beyond pretty cool. Like it's going to revolutionize sort of how we approach this game. So I think people are gonna ask, how are they going to be confident that the measurements are accurate and true? So you can talk a little bit about the technical aspects of it, because I know that there's a lot that goes into how the camera does that.
Sure.
But it's pretty amazing technology.
So let's start by talking about why it's accurate, and then I will make the bold claim that it's actually more accurate than the measuring tape. The way we make sure it's accurate is that traditional AR measurement apps that you may or may not have used, they excuse me, use the accelerometer to try to sense how much you've moved. And that is surprisingly accurate, but it's not accurate enough down to the millimeter and the kind of thing that we expect in a Warhammer environment. So what we opted to do instead was to use just one measurement that we knew we could get super accurate. And that measurement is how far away is the table. Because your phone can figure that out with a very high degree of fidelity. And then what we do is we draw a ruler at the right scale. So basically, we just make the one measurement. We figure out that, all right, right now, when you're holding your phone at this angle, the table is, 87 millimeters away. And then we draw the inches at true scale. So that means as long as your phone has a sensible idea of where the table is, which any modern phone will know, you'll have a perfectly accurate measurement. And the reason I'm claiming that it's actually more accurate than the measuring tape is that we make every measurement flush with the table. There's no millimeter loss for how you're holding it. Everything touches edge of base to edge of base. It's as accurate as you can theoretically get. So if you've been lurking our YouTube channel a bit, you may have seen, for example, we have a video where we actually ask the TO to make a tricky measurement of the closest unit for a smite. So set up a traditional situation where there's a psyker that's surrounded by a bunch of his own guys, but also a bunch of enemies, and it's not very easy to see who's the closest guy. And the TO uses the hover hands technique first, and is not quite happy with that. He's measuring above all the minis that are in between the smite, and then he tries to do a measurement next to the minis and gets a verdict. And then we show with the app that actually the TO gets it wrong. And this is something that we've known for a long time, that as accurate as a measuring tape is, a measuring tape measurement is not accurate, because that's made by a human and there's terrain involved and people see it from different perspectives. And if the measuring tape measurements were that accurate, then every measurement would only be made once, and we would never see people making their own measurements. Like, oh, you say it's a 9-inch charge, I say it's a 10-inch charge. That would never happen if the measuring tape was actually accurate.
Thanks, John and Nils. I've actually downloaded the app myself and tried it out. It's pretty neat, works pretty good on my mobile device. A new way to look at my tabletop.
Today's episode of 40K Today is brought to you by Frontline Gaming. Frontline Gaming is a one-stop shop for all your Warhammer hobby needs, discounted products, American-made gaming mats and terrain, and a full line of miniatures painting service and daily hobby content. And this can all be found at frontlinegaming.org.
Adeptus Mechanicus are getting a lot of new toys this week, and that's our subject for this week's Faction Focus.
Richard Siegler, or as I like to call you, the Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. The guy. Let's talk about Engine War. So I hear that Ad Mech got some really good, neat goodies, and you're going to be playing some Ad Mech on the Art of War stream. Is that true?
Absolutely. I've been playing a couple games of Ad Mech. I've been testing out all sorts of new variations, especially focused around Electro Priests. And the new Ad Mech rules in Engine War are incredible. There's a lot of jealousy coming from those Demon fans and from the Knight players. But boy, Ad Mech got some incredible rules, dramatically increasing the power of the faction.
Well, that's cool. You want to just give the people or give the listeners maybe a few of your favorite ones that you've sort of run across, or the things you're most excited to test and get on the table?
Absolutely. First thing on the chart is these new Warlord traits that Ad Mech got. They're Holy Orders. You can get, when you choose one, you get to pick one of 3 effects at the start of your turn. And 2 or 3 of them are absolutely incredible. Some of the best Warlord traits in the entire game right now. Crazy buffs. Some of them are dramatically increasing Ad Mech's firepower. Some are more about durability. Others are about melee buffs. But overall, those warlord traits are incredible. They're going to be a feature of every Ad Mech army. And the 1 CP stratagem that they received to get an extra warlord trait is currently not restricted to only one instance, like a lot of other extra warlord traits stratagems. So you could potentially get all of those extra ones if you have enough generic characters to take them, which is probably going to get fixed. But for now, yippee! Now, in addition to that, all the new units are incredible. In particular, the Cerberus Raiders, the gentlemen on horses who can snipe at characters and also have a pregame move. Extremely cheap for what they do. Sulfur Hounds are pretty good as well. In addition to the Taraxi guys. In particular, I really like both of those units, the Sky Striders and then the Sterilizers. Both have really powerful new stratagems. One of them allows the Sterilizers to hold units in combat on a 2-up. And then the other stratagem is also quite useful.
That's great. So then do you expect that we'll see more mono Ad Mech lists to take advantage of some of these new rules? Because Ad Mech typically you see is souped into a lot of other Imperial lists.
Yeah, for a long time, Ad Mech was kind of the loyal 17 or the rusty 17, as some would call it, and plugged into Knight lists, plugged into some other Imperium lists that didn't have a special bonus like Space Marines. But that kind of fell away as Space Marines dominated the meta. Right now, I think Ad Mech are in a wonderful place for a pure army. Mars is incredibly powerful with the new Forge World custom canonical. Lucius is pretty powerful as well. And then Styges 8 is going to remain quite strong as well.
That's great. And then obviously with it, things will change up quite a bit with 9th edition. We don't know where that's really going to go. But we do know that pure armies are going to get more CPs, or at least that's what it sounds like, and that you'll have to pay to actually soup. So I think Ad Mech, it'll be interesting to see all the new Ad Mech lists come out, and we'll get to see a lot of the new models come out to play. Do you like the new Flyer, for example?
I think it's okay. Right now, there's a little points error in the leaks that it seems like the Heavy Phosphor Blaster is written as 0 points instead of 15. Probably going to get fixed, so the gunship is going to be around 164 points, which is kind of a little pricey for what it does. If it was slightly cheaper, I think it would be almost an automatic include into Mars builds. But I think you'll still see it. I plan on running at least 1 or 2 and certainly just testing them out in lists. Okay.
Anything else you're excited to try with, what are the units that you're most excited to get on the table with the new rules?
The Cerberus Raiders. I think the ability to get up close and use their sniping ability is incredibly powerful because Ad Mech already have the best snipers in the game, the Transuranic Arquebus. And with Mars, it can now, if they're in that canonical, get +1 strength. So it's strength 8 now. AP2, D3 damage, got incredible range. The combination of being able to whittle down characters with the arquebuses from range and then getting close with the Cerberus Raiders to finish them off, I think that's going to be a really, really awesome tool that Ad Mech armies have. Hide your characters, John.
No, that's no good because I like to play character havoc. I'm very much a Hero Hammer player, and you're stabbing me in the heart, Richard. I don't like it.
I'm going right for the heart. No mercy.
Yeah. No mercy. Sweep the leg. Okay. Well, thanks for stopping by and talking to us about Ad Mech. I'm sure a lot of those Ad Mech players are super excited, and they'll be watching very carefully to see what you do with them because you do tend to set the meta.
Absolutely. I'll be writing an article on them very soon for Goonhammer, so check that out very soon.
Thanks so much, Mr. Siegler. If you're going to take tips from somebody, it should be that guy. Now it's time for that Model of the Day Jam.
It's the model of the day, the model of the day, the model of the day.
This one comes to you from Mark_at_AD. Wow, Constantin Valdor. What an amazing model and amazing job. The gold's almost like they're glowing with an inner fire. Just what the Emperor would want. Make sure you check him out on Instagram. Thanks for joining us, everybody. A big thanks to our content producer, Alex Banter, our social media ace, Tanya Gates, and technical producer, Seamus Ronan. John, Steve, wouldn't be here without you. You guys out there listening, thanks a lot for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Please leave us some 5-star reviews. And more importantly, we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, for the 40K Today team, I'm Paul Murphy, and that's what's happening in 40K Today.